In our last video today, I'm going to look at just one graph and show you how to tweak your graph and do some special things that make it look even nicer than it already does. So, the first thing you can do on your graph, and what I did is I just made this one graph bigger so that I can see it easier. Okay, so I'm looking at my temperature graph. The first thing I'm going to do is change the title. So, temp might tell me a little bit something, but a more detailed title is going to tell me more. So if I want to change my title, what I can do is I can just double click in here and change what it says. So instead of saying temp, I want my title to be temperature over 7 days in Necedah. Yours might be temperature over 7 days in San Francisco, or temperature over 7 days in Reno, Nevada. Wherever you recorded your weather is going to be somewhere in your title. So temperature over 7 days in Necedah, Wisconsin is what my chart is showing me. Another thing you might want to do is add some titles on your axes. So these numbers, since I made the graph, I know what these numbers mean, but people that are looking at it might not. So I'm going to put a title over here on my y-axis that shows what these numbers mean. And to do that, I'm going to be in Chart Tools under Layout, and the option is Axis Titles. I want to add a primary vertical axis tile, and it doesn't really matter which one, but I like the rotated title. And it gives me a little box to type in, and instead of it saying title, I'm going to have it say degrees Fahrenheit. So now whoever looks at my graph knows that this means 0, 5, 10, 15 degrees Fahrenheit. Down at the bottom, December 8th, December 9th, December 10th, that's a pretty detailed, anybody that looks at that is probably going to realize that's the date. But if you want to, you can add a title on the horizontal axis and call it date. Date. Perfect. There's a couple more options you have. One thing you can do is you can change the color of your line, you can change the thickness. That's all going to be found under Format. So I can change the way my graph looks, if I want an orange line or a blue line or a red line, whatever. I like a nice black line because I'm pretty simple when I make charts for science. I like them to be pretty straightforward. I can add dots to my line. There's lots of different options for you to do to make your chart your own. That's a pretty cool line. Green and 3D looking. I like that line. The last thing I'm going to do is a very, very important step because it makes your graph much more readable. It makes the changes more dynamic and more observable. So in my chart, you can see I have this big area at the bottom that's just all empty space. Graphs don't always have to start with 0. If I don't have anything below 30, I can start my graph at 30. That way, the small changes I'm going to be able to see on my graph. So instead of this being from 0 to 50, I'm going to make this be from 30 to 50. And to do that, what I need to do is go to these numbers, and I'm going to right click on them. And I'm going to open up all these options, and one says Format Axis. That's where I want to be. And I get a whole bunch of options, but I only need one thing, and that is going to be this minimum number. Yours is probably set on auto. We're going to change it to fixed, and then whatever your lowest number is, where you don't have anything below it on your chart, you're going to type that number in. So I don't have anything below this 30 line, so I'm going to make my smallest value be 30. And watch what it does to my graph when I do that. That makes a big difference. now I can see from day to day the big increases and decreases in temperature, and it makes my graph look just that much nicer. When you are done with your graph, so I've changed the title, I've given some axis titles, I've changed the run of my graph so it fits better. When my graph is done, I'm going to copy and paste my graph either into a Google Doc or into a Word document. And since Google Doc is always with you, I'm going to show you how to do that. So document and make a new one. And I'm going to call it Weather Project. And I'm going to copy and paste all 4 of my graphs in here. Oops. And it's loading. And there I go. I have my first graph. Once we're done with all 4 graphs, we're going to be printing them out, we're going to be cutting them out, and making a nice little presentation of our weather in our city. So your job right now is to make all 4 of your graphs beautiful and then get them into either a Word doc or a Google Doc so they're ready to print. By the end of class, you should have most of your graphs completed, if not all 4. So we got a lot to do today, so you can get to working.